I want to bring in a special guest right now, and that is Senator Kevin Cramer, Republican from North Dakota, who joins us by phone en route literally to the White House for tomorrow's oil meeting, which I believe, Senator, you did help broker. So thank you very much for taking some time. First and foremost, I want to ask about protocol. Are you okay physically going? Are you being or have you been tested for COVID-19? Obviously, as I understand, the executives of these oil companies either are or will be.
That's my hope as well, that I can be before the meeting tomorrow. But I will tell you, I have had zero symptoms and frankly I haven't completely self-quarantined since getting back from Washington to North Dakota. I've been pretty well locked in to my own space, doing a lot of this actually, and a lot of conference calls, a lot of meetings. So I feel very good, and we're going to take every precaution.
Okay, well, when I put the news on CNBC yesterday, the 7 CEOs that were going and what was likely to be discussed, everybody started screaming bailout. The energy companies are very keen to tell us, the media, and others, this is not a bailout. Is this a bailout of U.S. oil and gas?
Not at all. There's no one asking for one. I'm not suggesting one. My main interest is policy. It centers around Saudi Arabia's behavior, and particularly, of course, especially in conjunction with Russia, but the oversupply of an already glutted market at a time when demand is down was just the wrong move for lots of reasons, but especially at a time like this, because it's my sense that they're taking advantage of this coronavirus situation and the drop in demand to try and put the American shale business out of business. And of course, in North Dakota, we take that pretty personally.
Sure, absolutely do. I've been up to Williston a number of times, met a lot of good people in the business. But, some people, Senator, will push back and they'll say, well, the industry simply grew too fast, took on too much debt, and overproduced. What do you think about that?
Well, we have a lot of agriculture in North Dakota, and sometimes the same is said of them. But I would say this, that in the normal course of business, I would agree. But when we're hit with a virus like this, a pandemic that's global, and demand was down nearly 25% at the time that Russia and Saudi Arabia decided to, instead of cut production, increase production by about that same percentage. To me, it looks like anti-dumping. To me, it looks like collusion. It looks like a direct attack on the shale industry, trying to put the United States out of business. They've tried this before. We were able to outproduce them. They hopefully had learned their lesson, but now in this time of pandemic, it really doesn't look good at all. And it's also right at a time, and I've been pretty open about this. This is a time when the United States of America has at least 2,500 servicemen in Saudi Arabia. We have several missile defense batteries defending the oil assets of their country. We've stood with them in the war in Yemen. We've defended their assets at a time when they were just attacked a few days ago. In fact, I talked to their ambassador today about it. But for our defense systems, those missiles might have struck Riyadh. Instead, they were stopped. This isn't how friends treat friends. So my hope tomorrow is, frankly, what I'd like to see the president do is make an appeal, not necessarily a policy, but an appeal to especially the multinationals and the refiners, that they use U.S. crude during this emergency and show some corporate patriotism in that way.
You have, Senator, the power of the U.S. Senate behind you. If the idea of quotas, production quotas, divvied up by company, public and private, is brought up, would you support the idea of artificially limiting company output?
Well, that I would have to be convinced of, Brian. I don't mind telling you. I would just as soon, I like to see a market work, but I don't like to see it manipulated the way it's being manipulated by our friends and our adversaries. I don't know that I'd want to do that in the United States. We'll have to see. I'd prefer some sort of a voluntary action by the refiners. We currently export about the same amount of oil as we import. If we cut off imports for a while, at least during the emergency, and retooled our refineries to the degree they need retooling to take U.S. crude, I think we could keep our industry afloat. I think that would be a reasonable emergency response at a time like this.
Senator Kevin Cramer, we're going to let you go. We know you're en route to Washington. Be safe first and foremost. Come back in and check in and let us know what went down at that meeting tomorrow. Senator, thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for the opportunity as always.
All right,
Mike.
Tim Seymour. Oh, sure. Thank you, sir. Tim Seymour, obviously a huge move for oil, big move for some of these oil stocks. I mean, cold comfort, big move off a tiny base here. Based on what you heard, would you change your views on oil and gas at all?
Well, I don't think you should be changing anything in terms of understanding the supply-demand fundamentals, even in the short to medium term. Getting a deal is about changing sentiment in the sector, and obviously then changing supply fundamentals. And I think there has to be one. And I love the fact that the senator referenced all that we are doing in that part of the world. And at some point, enough's enough. So I think, like the 48% trough to peak intraday move on Brent or crude or whatever I tend to follow Brent. Extraordinary. Tells you where positioning is right now. You don't have to chase oil here, but I think the bottom is in for this cycle.